but that's why I do not. Having all their nice things taken away. So, oh, talk about it. Wait, wait. What was that last part? Right? Mar-a-Lago, dolphin. Mm. His vice president. Ugh. Wife doesn't know your age? Yeah, he likes to drag these out. Apparently, some of them last like 4 fucking hours. What's going on? Oh, I think the doctor's checking on someone. He stopped the. Wow, he's stopping his thing because someone I think and he's stopping to make sure the person's okay, and that the doctor gets space to grab him. That's so good. That's actually cool. Yeah, but like not too long ago, there was a concert, and like the guy who was the main thing for the concert, he's getting potentially charged for a bunch of kids getting trampled. Wow. Okay. Wow. Like I don't know if you've seen the soccer games or like the European soccer games or the what do you call it? Fucking there's people that like there was one instance where 1,000 people or something ridiculous like that of people died from suffocation, being trampled, like it's crazy shit. They're singing the national anthem. Donald Trump is leading the national anthem. This is you should see the comments are hilarious. I'm not American. I love America. Wow, that's cool. People are saying that this is the revolution and like the America that Americans want to see. Wow. different. God likes Trump. What? Like, it's very chill, surprisingly. Like, people aren't like freaking out. Like, no mosh pits. Everyone's standing still, and everyone's very calm. That's nuts. Wow. There is 137,000 people watching. That's pretty fucked up. That's crazy. Well, I think it's really cool that he stopped the whole thing for this, so that they can do their fucking job. Really? Yeah, I guess probably like every show that I've ever been to is a weekend show that. Oh, I thought that was fucking no cannot be like oh, no, they're here in our school. And they're like, it's not it. I'm like, no, it's a fucking Christian. Oh, that's true. Mm-hmm. Yeah, kind of. walk around with a fucking firearm and get killed. Yeah, fucking like Cold War criminal on the loose. Harder, better, faster, stronger. Very true. Yeah, and every time someone tried to fuck with him, he was just like, "All right, 100% Paris." And they kind of changed it up a little bit. And fucking now he's just introduced like Tyrion. It's like you're a fucking idiot. Really fucking ruined the whole economy. And doing things. Fuck, can you imagine? Like, this is possible. Like, it was done. We watched machines the road overnight the other day. We have the technology. Elon Musk is there? Elon Musk is there! He's coming up on stage! He's jumping behind Donald Trump right now! Did you just call him Elijahs? Is that his actual name? Elijahs? Dark Mega? got his name wrong though. He said I yeah, 100%. Yeah, and you just show up. Like you can't even show up and what are you voting? Yeah. You don't even know what you're voting for. You just like heard something on Facebook. Like not wrong. Wow. Yes, we love Trump. Yes. Well, I'm a fucking criminal now, so apparently I'm not allowed to vote. Boy, was that a fucking mistake in the first place. Mhm. It works. Doesn't matter. It doesn't know. And you should know that. Or we do the polar opposite and no one shows up on voting day. And we don't continue this stupid tradition of having one guy who's in charge of everything. Because it is stupid to say that one person can make decisions on behalf of all of us. Then you end up with Trudeau. Wow, that was interesting. I can't believe he's just like there in like the stance like that. That's nuts. Fucking turning my otolaryngology. Planet. That's what they say. Elon is so embarrassed. What? Do you know somebody named Elon Musk? Have you ever heard of Tesla? Oh wow! What? In 2 years. Wow. Big cry. Hey, oh, you guy crying. Dan, where's Dan? Glory. That's all right. You don't want to get to that. doing that. Right? Well, luckily Art memorized his whole script. And then he goes upstairs. What? Improv. That's funny. Hey, Ed, now. Is it Helen or Helene? Peter! What? That's cool. So much. Oh, wow. fuck, fuck, fuck. Yeah, that's true. Ah, no, make sure they use the front door. What they said. They just want your card, so hopefully they won't run your house if they already got your card. I need bars on their boat. What? 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 Yeah, we're told as well. It could be worse. It could be like this place. That pays even more than that. What? That's why they want to do online voting. And every Canadian who votes is like, no, I do not want online voting. When you fucking show up in person with an ID and fucking go to booth and vote. Like, fuck that. Oh, to kill the war. Well, count them up. Like, all right, stop it, baby. That's okay. Really? Wow, fuck. Our kids come out fucking pianists. Mathematicians. No, you know. In comparison to like what apathy was, it's sort of like people are living very high. And now we have no reserve left. And over here we're banning not having. Thank you. I can't understand why that has to be said. We offer our seniors aid. Oh, you're calling about your war bond not being validated? Well, did you hear about our new paper program? Yeah, you told me about it last time. Well, it's real fucking good. Nice. No longer is don't worry. You can pay a little bit. It's better. Like discounted. You're not gonna fucking take it free. Uh, yeah, but like all you have to do is free. Well, well, it's true because it's ridiculous. Like men won't even work in the same office as a woman now. Like, well, then don't be a fucking creep about it. Like, She had to be. Mm-hmm. Okay. Elon Musk is just like randomly in like the middle of the audience. He's like, Elon, stand there, I'll take a round of applause. Come on up here, Elon Musk. Elon Musk just like fucking trots on up there. He's like jumping around behind him while he's talking. I was like, wow. Oi. Great again. Okay, man. Where's the shit? First thing he says when he gets up. So as I was saying, get it? First thing he says when he got up, he's like, as I was saying. Vegetable. Now you get it? Yeah, everyone is vegetable. It's super gay stuff. Yeah. Yeah, but the gays love Donald Trump. The trans people, like but like not the trans, but the drag queens. Drag queens love Donald Trump. Hilarious. You put a video of that music. Yeah, everyone. The people on chats on the boat dancing. Everybody has. Scary. My Kamala taught me this. This is too gay. It is the anthem of the day. That and share. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, bum, bum. I don't. Young man. Woo, well done. Huh? What do you have? My triple. Oh. Why don't you take the dog upstairs? Ah! Why don't you take the dog upstairs? You look so sad. I like hanging out with you.
Well, he's rubbing himself on me almost like a cat, and he's starting to have a boner. I'm only. Oh, you know the anime Bleach? Is it new season?
Yeah, I heard they're fucking awful. I heard they were super dumb. Apparently,
It's not a small episode season. The 13 episodes.
no, but apparently it's like not the usual voice actors, and it's there are points where the mouth doesn't line up with the voice, whatever. It's like, yeah, apparently it's like but it could be that the person who's reviewing it and they have to do it fuck up. But well, apparently the voiceover doesn't line up with like the dub over. It'll be like if you're talking. It'll be like a silent moment. But it could have just been that person fucking has a fucking computer or something. Well, that was interesting. We do the what? Yeah, go take it. We? Oh my fucking. What, Jack? Oh, yeah, I know. I'm gonna tell you what. I you're fucking ass.
On sait que si on veut être performant, il y a des choses qu'on doit faire nous. Et ça demande d'être très précis techniquement, d'être coordonné tactiquement. Donc je ne sais pas si le fait d'être où on est, ça change grand chose, si ce n'est peut-être l'urgence d'aller forcer les choses. On est moins dans cette urgence-là. Mais si on ne met pas les ingrédients basiques, on va être aussi en difficulté. Mais oui, non, pareil.
That is CF Montreal manager Laurent Courtois ahead of tonight's matchup versus Charlotte FC. Coming up next here on CJAD 800.
Play the trap, the blitz, or the long pass. Change pictures, take an onside kick, charge the quarterback, protect the net, control the ball, play a 2-1-2 or a 1-2-2, play the zone, play the clock, drive to the basket, Win the battles in the corners. Set your budget. In sports, it's important to stick to the game plan. Same goes with betting. Mise au jeu. Play local, play legal, play with confidence. 18 and over.
Got PC Optimum points? Claire does, and shops the bonus redemption event at PharmaFree to get more free stuff for her points. If I redeem 50,000 points, I'll get $65 off. That's an extra $15 in value. I see a treat in my future. Awesome, Claire. The bonus redemption event runs October 4th to 9th, in-store and online. Exclusive to PharmaFree. It's your chance to get more free stuff for your points, and free feels good. Restrictions apply. Let's get going.
In shambles, they don't know what to do.
It must be, you mentioned your mom in the frequency with which she used to talk to your aunt. Like, it must be very difficult for you and your family as well to know what your family is enduring and be so far away.
You're absolutely right, because we're not living a normal life here in Canada either. I mean, we're sticking to the news. We're just looking at the news day in, day out. By the minute, every 10 minutes, we start to share. We have a group that we used to share good stuff among my immediate family here in Ottawa. And now, if we look at like 99% of the messages are about what's happening in Lebanon and bombardments and things that are happening here or there. We have memories there. My father is from the Bekaa Valley. My mother is from the south. We lived in Beirut. Every place that is being bombarded, we have some like childhood memories with it, and that we try to talk about it. And our immediate family, like cousins and their children, are being displaced. So when we hear the name and the list, and we hear bombardments of a list of 20 towns in southern Lebanon, okay? And then we know that my cousins, they come from 5-6 towns, and some of them, they are married in other towns, okay? So when I hear the word Kafadounin, that's my mother's hometown, and then Shakra is my aunt's hometown, and Kfarsir is another aunt's hometown, and Nabati is another aunt's hometown, and then we hear, okay, Kifa, that's where my cousin is married. Okay, and Al-Mashab, that's my other cousin is married, and Tulin, that's where my other cousin is married, and we see,
it's not just
we start making those connections to say, okay, well, are they safe? No, they're not. We always feel that one of them is going to go to check on their houses or go to get something, and then they will be caught in fire.
I get it. It's not just a headline for you and your family. It's the furthest thing from that. I have time just for one more question, and I wanted to ask you in particular about the government here in Canada, and if there are additional places you think they could be helpful. In particular, there's sort of little bits of information that come out about evacuation efforts, but it's very, nothing is really set in stone at this moment. They basically just bought some seats on planes. At this point, they say they're ready to do more, but I don't know what the inflection point is that would lead them to do that. They haven't been clear about that. What is your sense?
Well, evacuation is only about Canadians who are stranded in there, and that's, they talk about 40 to 50,000 people are there. But there are many people, like one of my cousins, she's Canadian, okay? But her immediate family is not Canadian, and she's not going to leave, and she's a nurse, and she's not going to leave everybody behind. So her interest is not in coming to Canada or leaving now. Is just all that they need is our government to start pressuring to stop the war. That's one thing. The second thing is pushing for humanitarian aid. The Lebanese Canadian community is 500,000 plus in Canada. We're contributors to society. We're working extremely very hard. And as I told you, our life is not normal here. We're just seeing what's happening back home, and we want our government to step up. We send a lot of support in many places out there. I would rather think about sending $100 million to buy weapons to send them to Ukraine to fuel a help stranded people, to help them. And that has to be done directly with the Lebanese government. Giving this money to NGOs now is the wrong thing, because 50 to 60% of that goes to administration with NGOs, when unless it is, for instance, the Red Cross, for instance, they are dealing directly with medical things, and I believe support for such organizations is absolutely imperative these days.
Okay, Professor, I'm going to leave it on that note. I appreciate your time, and we're thinking of you and your family members. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is the Vashi Capello Show on the iHeartRadio Talk Network. This is News Talk 1010 Time Saver Traffic.
On the 401, if you're heading eastbound, Express Avenue, we have a stalled vehicle in the right lane. Farther along, we have some weekend construction. Eastbound collectors of the 404 DVP, 2 right lanes are closed. Northbound, southbound DVP 404 ramps to the eastbound 401 collectors are closed, and eastbound collector ramp to Victoria Park is closed. Westbound on the 401, Express to collector transfer approaching the 400 is closed, also because of weekend construction. A bit of good news on the QEW, westbound ramp to here, Ontario. We had a crash in the right lane, now clear. Terra pushes our work boots to the limit, ensuring every sole, lace, and tread will help keep you safe. Designed for locked-in comfort, shop Terra Carbine at Marks. I'm Jay Fleming. Your next update at 8.
So they know that they can knock the ball around, trying to see if they can stretch out this very compact Charlotte defensive unit.
Piet switching the ball on the left side to Gabriele Corbo. Corbo to Edwards.
Why?
Edwards goes down.
We have TSN for this.
Denialism. I can't look at your truth. I can't consider your truth. And I won't, because I have to live in a world of denial. That's the only way that I can make it, you know? Some people are like that. We also talked about mental illness, delusions, schizophrenia, conspiracy theories. All of that is also in this category. You're going to be invalidated if there's a history of mental illness, if there's a history of substance abuse, if there's a history of believing conspiracy.
That's also going to make it difficult. And lastly, in this category, some people, and especially family members, who don't want to lose their own way that they see life, they're going to invalidate you and kind of minimize your experience so that they can maintain control. Maintaining control for most people is standing firm on what they believe. And so here you come with these theories that just doesn't make sense. You know, that you've been violated, that you've been abused, that you were in a marriage with domestic violence, that your husband had an affair on you, your wife had an affair on you, that you've been stalked by 9,000 people, that, you know, somebody's tapping your phones and living in your attic. You know, that somebody's calling your phone over and over and over. You bring all those theories to someone that is not used to considering the possibility of it, they are going to invalidate, minimize you. Again, to maintain control. I'm trying to say two things in one, to maintain control. I hope that makes sense. This is a lot, right, guys? It's a lot. Okay, let's go to the chat box. I'm going to engage you, and then we're going to wrap up. I'm so used to seeing you guys 2 nights in a row, so I'll be glad when I can get back to next week. Okay, looking for comments. Gary Bennett says, get documentation, write a journal, and inform your local general practitioner. Documents by doctors will unravel the lies and deception of gang stalkers. Sometimes, sometimes not. Sometimes you go to a doctor, they're going to diagnose you with something, and maybe you do need to be diagnosed, and maybe you do need to be treated, and that's okay too. At least you're going to get help. The other side of the coin is this, that they may document your beliefs, but they're also documenting that you have a problem. And this is where treatment comes in, right? What's so wonderful about professionals is that they have a way of validating your experience, letting you know that, okay, you truly believe this is happening. It is, and this is how I am as a provider. It's causing emotional and psychological distress. We have to fix this. And so, yes, good doctors and good therapists, good psychotherapists, clinical professionals, yes, they do document. And they do it in a way that is favorable, right? It makes sense to insurance companies. It makes sense to other providers who are treating you. It creates a story. Our medical documentation is really a story. It's a story. Every single appointment you have adds to the last part of your story, right? So truly ethical and well-versed professionals know how to document. Doesn't mean that they're going to document that you're well or that there's a such thing as gang stalkers, but will they document that this is something that you're afraid of, something that's, you feel that's happening, something that is really causing emotional distress? Yes. Yes. Okay. Carl Jones says, plenty of factual books on the targeted individual program. I wouldn't say factual books. I've actually read a few of them. I wouldn't say factual. I would say they're conspiracy. If you go into Barnes and Noble, okay, or you go into Amazon, type in one of those books. It's going to be in the section of mystery, conspiracy theories. There's a book called Beyond the Dream. That's a book that my mom actually used to read. It's pretty interesting. But he had some ideas around some mystical experiences. I can't think of the other. It's slipping my mind. My mom used to have the book, and I can't remember what it is. But all of those kind of books that people strongly claim are factual are not factual. They are quote unquote factual based on the fact that confirmation bias is happening, right? You find information to fit your narrative and you just pull it in wherever, and then you run with it and say, this is factual. Have we had issues in our society in the past where there has been monitoring? There has been
conspiracy theories end up not being
there
theories,
has
they're
been
just like crazy
challenges where the privacy is being disregarded. 100%. Are we being watched on a daily basis? Assume you are. Assume you are, right? If you go to a Starbucks nowadays, there are people doing this sometimes in the whole Starbucks. One day I saw a whole camera crew at Starbucks. Why? Because somebody was a famous YouTuber. And I'm at the drive-thru and I'm like, oh my Lord. They're in the Starbucks with like 2 camera guys, bright lights. Like, that is ridiculous, right? So just assume you're being watched, okay? The other piece of that is we're being monitored through surveillance.
Hi.
Go to a store and you look somewhere and find a camera.
No.
Go to a medical facility. You're being watched. I'm not even sure sometimes I even trust the restrooms in medical facilities. Why? I know the stories. And there's been stories of peepers, right? Other people in other stalls hooking things up and watching. Are there situations where landlords have come into your home, perhaps, or your apartment, whatever you're renting, to look around, to look through your things, to place a camera, to place a speaker, to tap things? 100%. 100%. I had one client about 7 years ago.
I think that's what Dom's landlady is doing.
The landlord, she got him on camera. I encouraged her to put a camera in her bedroom.
She also has a deal
2
with
weeks into it.
I heard something about it actually not too long ago.
Snooping in her bedroom. He had a thing for her. So do these things happen? Yes. Are there people who say that there are
and they
facts
get a price reduction?
Yes. Because to you,
I'm like, I totally saw that coming.
This is also what I want you to walk away with the conversation with. Everybody else doesn't always see it as facts, right? And a lot of times it isn't. Facts for law enforcement is really a large base, meaning facts for them has to meet a certain criteria. And if it doesn't meet a certain criteria on their list, right, as law enforcement, police officers, even as therapists and psychologists, it's not factual. It's not meeting that criteria, if that makes sense. So that's why a lot of people go to mental health professionals and they get called sick, unstable. Sometimes that is true. Other times it isn't. Okay. Let's keep moving, guys. Laura, hello. Welcome to tonight's live chat. Glad to have you in tonight's chat. Yes. Yep. Yes. Agree. West Indians. Yes. Agree. Absolutely. Yep. Latino father. She says, yep. So true. Yep. Yeah. My family, and I've shared this with you guys, my family's pretty split down the middle. On my grandmother's side and my grandfather's side, they are mixed. But on my biological father's side, there is multi-ethnic blood on that side. So we've got African-American, my father's side of the family. We have family members who are white. We have family members who are Latina. We have family members who are West Indians as well on my dad's side. My dad, German heritage. And then on my mom's side of the family, where my grandfather is, there is a Native American Apache and African American heritage. And both of those, okay, can you imagine how confused I was trying to figure out who I was? And it took a lot of research for me to figure this out. Well, on my dad's side, they believe a lot of conspiracy theories. On my mom's side, don't even mention conspiracy theory, okay? Because if you mention that, you're going to be tagged psychotic. So culture and ethnicity, remember we talked about that a couple minutes ago, guys. It really makes an impact. Nancy says, it really hurts when not one of them believed me. I feel like I, as the scapegoat, was set up by my dark empathic mother. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry about that, Nancy. I wish I had more to say on that. I just don't want to presuppose. So I'm kind of holding back what I'm thinking. Zias, I don't disagree with that. To a certain extent, I don't disagree with that. Jen Woke says, I shared with close friends and family that I was being gang stalked and harassed online. They all only brushed it off like nothing or laughed about it. Yeah, pray to God and stand up for myself. Yeah. Right. It's everything that I just said, so I digress. The nurse who loved me, 89. Hello and welcome to tonight's live chat. We're going to sign off here in literally 3 minutes. Welcome, glad to have you. Says I grew up with a mom telling me that aliens built the pyramids. Oh, geez. Yeah. One of my mom's close family friends said that she saw an alien walking in the city where my mom was living at the time. I think it was like, I can't think of the area that she was. It left my mind. But, you know,
please move that ball.
My mom bought into that friend. Why?
I just see you fucking rolling fucking
beautiful, successful, mature, motivated to go get her. And my mom looked at her and said, if she says aliens are real, aliens are real. And so my mom believed that for a lot of years. A lot of years. And so as I was coming up, you know, I remember just sitting thinking, oh my God, I hope this goes away at some point, you know. Sunwater shares my experience as well. Glad to have you in tonight's live chat. Says the aliens building the pyramids got me.
Oh,
yes.
wow. Yeah, my dad believes that.
Yeah. We need a support group just for us, don't we? Okay, I'm gonna mess this up, but forgive me in advance. Ash Shakura Whitaker, hello and welcome. Glad to have you tonight. Says yes, I have heard those conspiracy theories. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jeanette puts up here, bias narrative. Thank you, Jeanette. I appreciate you. All right, just looking for people. I don't want to miss anyone. Siobhan, hello and welcome. Glad to have you tonight. Brian Solis says, I don't seek validation, but yeah, to a certain extent, right? I think it's wise to say, okay, I don't need anyone's validation. So for 80% of my life experience, I'm okay validating myself. But I'll leave that 10 to 20% open for possibilities, because I don't want to have dichotomous thinking. I don't want to have black and white thinking where I get confused or I really drive home this belief system and it's wrong. So I'm going to leave that 10 to 20% open for possibilities, because that's healthy. I'll take the other 80%. I'll validate myself. That's one way to look at this. Thank you, Phoenix. All right, Shannon Duncan, hello and welcome. Glad to have you. Says, the narc just came home from work. Heap. Okay. She's searching for an issue to have. Shaking my head. Oh, that's awful. I'm sorry. That's awful. DJ, hello and welcome. I'm always glad to see you in the comment section. Glad to have you tonight. Shinadol77, I probably messed that up. Forgive me. Hello and welcome. All right, I'm just scanning. I don't want to miss anyone. Jonda Hall, hello and welcome to tonight's live chat. I hope I said that correctly. Says, she thinks I'm cheating and then she broke up with me. Why do I lie when I get scared? Well, I mean, you know, that's a whole other live chat. We're going to get to that in a next couple of live chats. I don't know. I don't know. There's many reasons. I will post in the description box my recent live chat where I talked about pathological liars or impulsive liars, compulsive liars, and maybe you can see some things in there that could be helpful. But if somebody thinks that you're having an affair on them that you're not having, and there's no proof whatsoever, you really are true and honest and genuine, and you truly are not having an affair, that is sometimes, depending on how much that belief has torn apart your life, that can sometimes be known as jealous delusions or delusional jealousy. And delusional jealousy tends to happen when a marital partner, a boyfriend, girlfriend, you know, they believe that you're having an affair and they experience confirmation bias. They go out there and they look for clues, and they pull in information that validates that you're having an affair, because they need to find information that makes them feel that they are right. And so they unknowingly pull that information in, and it's proof to them that you're having an affair when you're really not. So if her beliefs have destroyed your life, then that might be delusional jealousy. Jill Ganar, I hope I said that correctly. Welcome to tonight's live chat. Says, what about cyber stalking and in-person group stalking coordinated by someone who knows you? Yeah, that can happen. Yeah. Cyber stalking can definitely happen. And sometimes, let's say, for example, in high school environments, I treat a lot of teenagers, you know, they're adolescents who they tap into their friend Susie over there, and then they start talking, and then they bring in Jennifer, and they start talking, and then they bring in Nancy. And so before you know it, they've got 4 people, 4 of them, 3 of them, or 7 of them who are now harassing the one girl over there in the corner at school who never bothers anybody because she's quote unquote strange. That can happen. So cyber stalking, yes, and in-person group stalking can definitely happen.
At like my best friend's funeral.
Okay. All right, guys.
Told me I was being
Lemon Squeeze. Hello and welcome. I love that screen name. Glad to have you in tonight's live chat. Says, I overshare. Yes, yeah. Most people do. Thank you so much, Nancy. I'm glad this was helpful to you guys. Okay. To Hottie89, hello and welcome, says gang stalking is real and out of this world. A lot of people say that. A lot of people say that. Again, there's no proof. It's hard to prove. And here's the sad part of gang stalking. You ready for this? That in a group of people who believe that they are being stalked by multiple associations, businesses, conglomerates, people, family members, friends, neighbors, ex-lovers, right? In that big group of people, and sometimes there are quote unquote support groups for people who believe they're being gang stalked. In that big group, okay, we're not talking about one person who has a mental illness. We're not talking about 2 people. We're not talking about 3 people. We're talking about a large percentage of individuals who are,
The Jones thing.
as my
Okay.
grandfather used to put it, rubbing shoulders with people who are ill. And those people grab theories and they run with it. Okay, so imagine, I want to try to expand your thinking on this just a little bit. Excuse me. How do I want to put this? Imagine, I'm trying to give you a good example. Imagine being in a group where you believe that you're being gang stalked. You go to this group to be supported, to have a common ground, to share with each other, to talk with each other, right? Let's say that's what you do. You go there, you sit down next to Betsy. Betsy just lost her husband in a very tragic way. And she has just gotten out of bed to come to that gang stalking support group because she is lonely. She's attempted suicide, it failed. And she misses her husband. Since the death of her husband, she believes she's being followed by 4,000, 9,000 people. So now you're sitting next to Betsy. Betsy is sitting next to Jim, and Jim has been in the hospital several times for psychosis. Then you're sitting next to Bob, and Bob is a pathological liar who likes to stir the pot and get things running. Of course he'd be at a gang stalking support group. Next to Bob is somebody else who believes in conspiracy theories, right?
Or religious people.
In that group, you don't know who's running with what theory and why and where they're coming from. And so this is why gang stalking is so difficult to conceptualize and talk about and process and explore, right? Because again, you don't know who's there with you. You don't know who's in these online support groups. You don't know who is there in the midst of you, right? Saying that they are also being gang stalked. Well, they may just be saying that because they're a pathological liar and they want attention. They could also be saying that they're gang stalked because they're going through a psychosis and they can't tell heads or tails of much of anything, right?
Yeah.
So I guess my point is this, that it's really, really hard. And I want to make it very, very clear that you're not just being disbelieved because you're being disbelieved and you're not well. Sometimes people on the outside could look inside of things and say, you know what, this is not adding up. There's no proof here, you know? And it's really hard to prove that gang stalking is a real thing when you have pathological liars that get off on going along with this craziness. You have people who are mentally ill who believe that they are the victims of this when they're not. When they're medicated, they know it's not happening to them.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
We also have situations where there's narcissists who believe they're being gang stalked because they're narcissistic. They feel somebody has them on their mind at all times. So law enforcement, they go through that checklist and they're like, this is not making sense here. We got to drop this, you know? So I'm continuing to throw things out there in hopes that you guys can hear that there's a reason why. There's a reason why when it comes to gang stalking. It's not that it's not that you're being harshly treated at all times. Sometimes it just doesn't add up. Keisha Carter, hello. Welcome to tonight's live chat. We're going to sign off here. I'm way over time. It says, hey, Tammy, your videos have been really helpful and insightful for me. Thank you. Yes, you're welcome. So glad to hear that. Okay, guys. Jonda Hall, thank you so much for the super chat tonight. I really appreciate that always. Thank you so much. James McDonald says discernment is key. Yes. Yes, discernment is key. Siobhan, I'm going to read you before we wrap up here. Siobhan says, yeah, as a surviving witness, I've been gang stalked for many years. They never stop, not even when in legal battle over it. Yeah. I like what Christina says here. Christina says that hurts to hear. Trauma creates its own story. Yes, it does. Yes. I like your comment, Christina. Thank you so much for saying that. Sammy. Ah, that's so sweet. I'm glad you were able to tune in. I'm always glad. Guys, let's wrap up, okay? Tinnitus Abysmos. I probably messed it up again. Hello and welcome. Always glad to see you in the chat box. For those of you that, Jonna Hall, Thank you so much for that. I appreciate the super chat. I don't want to miss anybody who gives a super chat. John DeHall says, is there a way to heal from being scared, then lying? I'm not sure I understand that questioning. John, feel free to email me, okay? My email is in the description box. Feel free to email me. I'll read your email, and I will get back to you, okay? I feel like I've seen you in this chat box asking the same question. I haven't been able to read it, so I apologize for that. Guys, for those of you who I wasn't able to get tonight, I apologize, but just know that I hear you and I see you. Like I always say, I go back over these chats just to look at the chat box and see what you guys are saying. I also read your comments, so post them in the description box. I hope this was a helpful live chat. It really is tossing and throwing up a lot of ideas, right? And a lot of conflicting, kind of clashing views. But these are always important conversations, right, guys? Next week, I will be back for Friday and Saturday. So I look forward to seeing you. I think you're going to like what's coming up. I'll see you soon, guys. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye. Oh, and by the way, I don't want to forget this. Thank you so much for wishing my mom a happy birthday yesterday. She was blushing for a good hour. So thank you so much, guys. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye. What? Yeah. Is it not Papa?
All the doctors think I'm crazy, but I'm not.
Dr. Reese, we're moving on.
She's the worst. You have to get Dr. Reese for me.
Do you believe it's okay to hurt yourself?
How else could I get to you? You have to help me get out of there.
Hey, I'm sorry, but I'm not your psychiatrist.
My mom came at me with a hammer while I was sleeping. All the other doctors think I'm psychotic, but my mom's the one who's crazy.
In order to get a more complete history, I contacted the officer who arrested Nancy and her mother. She's been in and out of jail for assault. In fact, she is at the county right now. Please take a look. The one thing we know for sure, it was her mother's testimony that got Nancy committed, and her mother is an unreliable witness.
Well, it seems that she might have been committed largely based on her mother's version of events.
A biased narrative. As Nancy's court-appointed doctor, I'd advise you to worry about your own patients, Dr. Charles.
I'm not crazy, sir. I'm not.
I'm filing an appeal. She's a violent, unstable mother, and her fate is in the hands of a psychiatrist who doesn't believe a word she says.
All the doctors.
Hi there. Would you like to receive
Please,
a gift?
why?
For the
Kate.
Church of Jesus.
Is there a
Christ of
way
Latter-day Saints.
to...
And this
I want this off of my fucking recommendations. Block ad. Like... I don't want to see your fucking stupid religious fucking...
All hell has broke loose
nonsense.
in Canada. We have to talk about these protests that are erupting across the country in numbers that, frankly, we just haven't really seen before. With the war in the Middle East escalating, tensions are high. I mean, you have Israel that's saying we're going to retaliate to Iran. Iran saying if you retaliate, we're going to nuke you. Israel saying if you reply to our retaliation, because we have a right to defend ourselves, we're going to nuke you. And then you have America that is now in Israel saying we're going to nuke everybody if they don't comply. And Justin Trudeau, what does he have to say about this?
Nobody
All of this is
fucking actually
included in
cares, though.
this video. And I just realized I'm wearing my matching pajamas that my family has. Holy crap, how did I not change my shirt before recording this? Yes, my pants also match this, and they are glow in the dark. This is highly embarrassing. Let's just forget what I'm wearing.
Why are you telling everybody?
Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before
Literally
we get into
no
it, I
one
do
would know
encourage
that.
you all to
And
smash
the
the
only
like
reason
button
you know
and
that
subscribe
is
if you haven't already. It does really help grow the channel. And
As if
I
you're
also
like
want to
super
announce
proud.
that there are stickers for sale, sticker packs to be exact.
I
Link
hate
down
you
below
so
the description or the pinned comment below. There is the liberal-only scams. Freeland on a broom. Trudeau must go. Keep calm and never vote. See that? It's Liberals at 61. Not looking seats. Get what's going on there.
Yeah,
Those
what's
tensions
going on,
is really applicable to what's going on here in Canada. All right. So Israel says that it will use nuclear weapons if Iran makes a mistake to strike Israel again. Iran says it will destroy Israel's entire energy infrastructure, including power plants, refineries, and gas fields if Israel strikes Iran. Then you have Donald Trump says Israel should strike Iran's nuclear facilities. Then Syria officially applies to join BRICS. And then Netanyahu has this to say, which pretty much slams the French President Macron after he called for a halt in sending weapons to Israel for use in Gaza. What a disgrace. Israel will win with or without their support.
I have a message. I have a message for President Macron.
Everybody,
Today,
I need
Israel
you to
is
stop
defending
what you're
itself on
doing
7
and
fronts
listen.
against the enemies of civilization. We're fighting in Gaza against Hamas, those savages that murdered, raped, beheaded, and burned out people on October 7th. We're fighting in Lebanon against Hezbollah,
Never
the
fucking
most
ever
heavily
would I
armed
ever,
terror
like,
organization in the world, which was
Feeds
planning an
reported
even greater
violence, but this
massacre
guy
than
used to
October
fucking
7th
go.
on our northern border.
Guy's
And that is rocketed
awful.
Israeli towns and
He's
cities
fucking
for nearly a year.
again.
We're fighting
Saying
against
your
the
fucking
Houthis in
name.
Yemen and the Shiite militias in Iraq and Syria that together have launched hundreds of drones and missile attacks against Israel. We're fighting against terrorists in Judea and Samaria who are trying to murder civilians in the heart of our cities. And we're fighting against Iran,
You're killing
which last
children.
week fired over 200 ballistic missiles directly at Israel, and which stands behind the 7-front war against Israel. As Israel fights the forces of barbarism led by Iran,
Okay, I just
all
don't care
its
to
other
give you my face. Like, any kind
that
of
the commander of the U.S. Central Command has arrived in Israel. He's there to help Israel plan the counterstrike against the Islamic regime in Iran, as well as prepare the USA-backed defense against any retaliatory strikes from Tehran. And from my understanding, the 180-plus missiles that were launched from Iran that did successfully hit different parts of Israel, those are ballistic missiles. Now, if I'm not mistaken, the Iron Dome is not really, I think it's like 3 different, there's 3 different components to the Iron Dome. There's long range, medium range, and short range interception. And none of them are that effective against this new ballistic, or not the ballistic missiles, the hypersonic missiles, which basically take the air out of the sky as they're flying away, and that has an internal combustion system, and they just go like Mach 5 speed, and it's really, really difficult to basically intercept them, and that's why we saw what we saw. And so it just seems like everything is leading to, yep, there's going to be some catastrophic event, which is going to lead to global tensions and, you know, supply chain interruptions, probably stock market crashes, housing crashes. Everyone's going to panic. No one's going to know what to do. And I think the best thing we can do is, I mean, just kind of add social pressure to our leaders and say, hey, man, we need to do something about this. We need to just, everybody calm down. Everybody calm down. And obviously all this is happening like a month away from the largest, most impactful and kind of divisive election in America, the world's superpower that we have ever seen. So yeah, I don't think you can write a better movie script than what's going on right now. But unfortunately, a movie is, you know, made up, and this is real life. Here's what Justin Trudeau has to say about the issue, right? Trudeau urges Canadians to leave Lebanon as conflict intensifies.
Risks in the region have been known for a long time, which is why for the past many months we have been exhorting
Canadians
It sounds like it's about to
to
cry.
get out of Lebanon, to know that these were dangerous times, and we were trying to encourage all Canadians to get out. The tragedy of the 2 Canadians killed is something that weighs heavily on us, but we know we need to continue to offer opportunities for people to leave to safety, and we will continue to do that work. And we're increasing support for commercial flights. There are spaces for Canadians on those planes that have not at this point been filled. So I encourage any Canadian who can leave Lebanon to leave Lebanon. We are ensuring flights to be able to do that, because if the situation gets worse, as we are working very hard to try and prevent it from getting worse, it will be extraordinarily difficult for the tens of thousands of Canadians who are currently in Lebanon, and obviously extraordinarily difficult for all Lebanese civilians if things get worse.
At this point, there's 6,000 people that have registered to get information that may be interested in leaving Lebanon. We still have 2,500 calls to make. We'll be doing these calls over the weekend to make sure that everybody is reached. And we've agreed to add more flights next week, including on Monday and on Tuesday. Of course, these flights will be between Beirut and Lebanon, and at this point there's around 1,000 Canadians that have been able to leave through this assisted departure. Since a lot of seats were not necessarily filled, we were able to work with Americans, with the Australians and New Zealanders, and we're also working with European countries. So basically my message, like the Prime Minister just mentioned, if you are offered a seat, please take it. We know things are difficult, but we want to make sure that your safety and yours and the one of your family is ensured.
So we've seen in the past governments take these level of precautions where they repeat the same thing. Everybody that's part of our nation, get out now. And it's never really escalated to nuclear. But now that they're saying it as much as they are, and with tensions rising so much, where you have all of the allies of Iran backing them, unequivocally saying if Iran gets hit, we are all going to jump in, and the same thing with Israel. If Israel gets hit, America is going to be jumping in. It just seems like we are going to see something that we have never, ever seen before. But we do have another video here of Justin Trudeau and Foreign Affairs, aka Trudeau's mistress, Melanie Joly, talk. If you want to skip ahead to the protest, there's just this one last video to take a look at.
Okay,
Trudeau
so you
repeats
are well aware that people are
call, but
skipping
doesn't
through your
condemn
video.
Israel for
Okay.
sending troops into Lebanon.
I may be a realtor in a competitive market, but I'll never have to cold call again because YouTube ads gave me a continuous flow of sellers.
Well,
and
good for you, champ.
We remain deeply concerned by the deteriorating situation in the region. Canada strongly condemns Iran's direct military strike against Israel. The current escalation of tensions is in no one's interest. We have to put an end to this escalation of violence. We, along with our G7 partners, are calling on all parties to do everything in their power to protect civilian populations, to allow humanitarian aid to urgently reach those who need it, and to respect international humanitarian law.
Can someone make him stop talking?
Ceasefire and the release of hostages. Canada supports efforts by the U.S., Qatar, and Egypt to reach such a deal. So we see.
You are exhausting.
We need recent missile attacks.
Like this clip on his own personal tiny piece of this footage.
For me, I look at where the world is going and where polarization has happened and where excesses of populism have been able to come in, and the winner-take-all version of first past the post that we have right now, where you can get elected as the MP for 100% of people in your riding with 32% of the vote, if it's properly divided, if it's divided amongst other parties, is not just devaluing the votes of so many others, but it's giving you a false sense of being the only legitimate voice for your community. And if I could do things differently, I don't know exactly how I would have, but I certainly would have done things differently around electoral reform to try and make sure that we are not going to be fighting this next election under first past the post again.
The only thing that Justin Trudeau has lived up to his promises from 9 years ago is the legalization of Mary Jane. That's it. He's promised, changing things for electoral reform. He's also promised for more infrastructure, clean drinking water to small Indigenous communities and small remote places across Canada, and he's failed on everything except for the legalization of
no,
marijuana.
but he's not just failed on the legalization part.
And
no one got
not
no one got
condemning certain
released from
things
jail.
that he, frankly, a lot of people are calling him to condemn. So you have people in the streets right now, which are going to be taking a look at these insane protests that are erupting in mostly Ottawa, right outside the Parliament buildings, outside of Justin Trudeau's office, and outside of
and now fucking
Yonge and
on the
Dundas
news
Square in
they're
Toronto,
saying,
which
well,
they're
the
gonna be
gateway
renaming
drug.
to
I'm like,
something, who knows? It's going to forever be Yonge and Dundas. But nonetheless, a lot of these protests, hey, protest all you want to your heart's content. But if you're supporting like actual recognized Canadian and international recognized terrorist groups, right? Waving Hezbollah flags and Hamas and saying, yay, they're doing a great job. That's pretty messed up, man. And that's really why we're highlighting this. So here we go, folks. This is the Red Blend on X, who's outside of Parliament. People carrying body bags. We are 2 days away from the October 7th milestone of 1 year. And you have some people have, if you look around, there's a mixture of people that are supporting Hezbollah, people that are supporting Hamas. There's also counter protesters. There's people from Iran that are saying, hey, Iran is being held hostage by Hezbollah. There's just so many different variations of these protests. So as you can see, there's a lot more momentum that's picking up as time goes on, and lots of arguments. So in this instance, an argument breaks out in front of Parliament on the 1 year of resistance protests. And that's what they are calling it. This is again by the Right Blend.
You have a million Jews against you as a Zionist. Yeah, I think you are. Free Palestine! When this is building, when there is 75 years, it was Palestine. Jewish, yeah, this is come. They're occupied. They're 1946.
And as time goes on, as the protests, pick up a lot of momentum, there are extreme amounts of tensions and fights and altercations that break out. And police, they go in and they break it up. We're taking a look at that in Toronto. This might be the last clip here of Ottawa. So these are Iranian protesters that are against Iran, what's basically happening in Iran and how they're being held hostage in conjunction with terrorist entities over there. Stop executions in Iran. No more hangings.
Like, why would anyone
Raise your
have
voice
a problem
against terrorist
with
regime of Iran. Raise your voice against terrorist regime of Iran.
I mean, Capitol Hill right now, folks, is just insane. There
But
are
why
so
is this a
many
problem
things going
for
on.
anyone?
But it's nothing compared to what's going on in downtown Toronto. So this is what Yonge and Dundas looks like right now. Or I guess this is what Yonge and Dundas looked like probably about an hour before posting this. As you can see, just completely packed to the brim. Now we do
That's
have
Yonge and
on
Dundas.
the ground footage here. So there's a union leader, Mr. Coop himself, Fred Hahn, who attended the weekend October 7th protests to greet all his fans. I mean, it's just crazy.
Oh, there's Fred Hahn. He's the is it the opposite leader there? Oh, sorry, QP leader who the Zion lobby's going after. Yeah.
Kind of crazy. And then you've got some more protest footage.
Yo, we got all the resistance flags out. Yes, all the flags are out, guys, holding it down. Yeah, holding it down. Resistance.
And I mean, as this goes on, right, they're calling for a ceasefire, some of these protests, which is, I think, something that a lot of people can agree with. I think that we're all fed up with the, firing retaliatory response. I think that everybody could just collectively come together on a ceasefire. Just that one statement there would unite so many different sides. So the left, the right, the middle, the ultra left, the ultra right, whatever it is. I think just a ceasefire across the board, everyone could cumulatively come together, unanimously support that. We do have a little bit more footage here. This is by Karima.
If you want to sell your home in the greater area of Montreal for top dollar without paying enormous commissions, expensive renovations, or even hosting an open house, I have a fantastic opportunity for you. Do yourself a favor and download our free seller's guide now. Hi there, Terry Germanis, a seasoned real estate professional, and I understand your concerns. Let me help you navigate in this challenging market. We prepared a free guide that is packed with valuable insights how to get the most out of the current market. We've perfected a proven method to getting the maximum price for your home after helping hundreds
Honestly,
of
it's
homeowners
better than
selling
what
over
I was
asking
listening to.
This strategy getting
I don't have to listen to this and
buyers
have to listen
making
more to that
offers on
fucking
your
moron.
house so you can
Guy's
sell for
fucking
top dollar
idiot.
in less than 5 days and without doing any work. I've created a free guide walking you through step by step on how to instantly sell your house for maximum profit with my proven sales method. Click the button below to get it now.
It was more than 4 years ago when the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 a pandemic and the world shut down. Now, things have largely returned to the way they were, but the virus still remains. How dangerous is COVID-19 today? And have people forgotten that the disease still poses health risks, as some are still feeling the effects of poor mental health? Let's ask Dr. Isaac Bogosh, infectious diseases specialist at Toronto General Hospital. Don Bowdish, executive director at the Firestone Institute for Boy, that's harder to say than I thought. Let me try that again. Don Bowdish, executive director at the Firestone Institute for Respiratory Health and professor of medicine at McMaster University. And Quen McKenzie, CEO of the Wellesley Institute and director of health equity at CAMH, the Center for Addiction and Mental Health. And we are delighted to welcome you three here to TVO. I have to point this out off the top. You've been here before, but only on satellite. So welcome here for the first time. You've been here a million times, although never here. You've been on this show a lot. Yeah. But this is your first time you've been here. Lovely to be here. Well, let's shake hands. This is the first time we've done it. Okay. And Quem, of course, was practically my co-host during COVID. He was here so often. Anyways, let's start by looking at the latest numbers for COVID-19 in Ontario. This is from Public Health Ontario. The period examined August 25th to September 21st of this year. COVID-19 cases in Ontario. Positivity, 18%. Outbreaks, 420. Hospitalizations, yes, people are still being hospitalized for COVID, 764. And deaths, 49. people are still dying of COVID. Isaac Bogosh, start us off here. Should we be concerned about those numbers?
Forgotten by many, but not gone. COVID is transmitted year-round. There's parts of the year where we see more COVID, for example, fall and winter, but it did not go away in the summer, and it will not go away. People are still getting sick with this infection. We know what the risk factors are for severe infection, like hospitalization and death, and the virus is continuing to do exactly what we would expect it to do. It is making older people and people at risk for severe infections, like those with underlying medical comorbidities, ill. They're still coming into hospital. Sadly, they're still succumbing to this illness. We do have tools to help reduce the risk of infection. Perhaps we're not using those tools as well as we could be. Let me rephrase that. We are not using those tools as well as we could be, and we have a duty to do so to protect the population of Ontario, the population of Canada, and from an equity standpoint, of course, the population of the world.
Don Bowdish, we are hearing that disproportionately older people are still suffering from COVID. How are they getting it now?
Same way any of us are getting it. Ironically, we think of older people as being the most likely to get hospitalized, but actually they're not the most likely to get infected. It's actually young working age people who are the most likely to get infected. So one of the reasons older adults get infected is socializing with friends and family, just as we all do. And so I think that's an important point for families to remember. I always say vaccination is a family affair because you do it not just for your own personal health, but you do it to protect the older adults and the vulnerable around you. And I think that's a message that families can take into the holiday season.
What are vaccination rates looking like nowadays compared to when we were in the thick of it?
Well, finding a vaccine is pretty difficult, actually. Though we've got COVID being a all year round disease, we don't have access to vaccinations all year round.
Oh my God!
So we're still waiting for the latest version to come. So vaccination rates have decreased. People didn't get into the habit of having COVID vaccinations like they have others. And there's not the same push that, say, for instance, there is for seasonal flu. And so vaccination rates are low.
I want to go off the page for a second here and just call an audible, because when you three showed up today, you had a mask on. You had a mask on, Quam. Isaac, you did not. And I want to have a little bit of discussion here about why you made those decisions. You want to start us off?
No. I'd love to hear what they have to say first.
Okay, fair enough. Dom, why did you have a mask on?
For me, there's sort of a mix about my duty to the people I study and care for. So I study vulnerable people and older adults in long-term care, and it behooves me as a young person to prevent the spread of infection to the vulnerable people around me. But I'm also concerned about my own health. I am in the prime group for getting long COVID. That's 40 to 60-year-old women. And as well, even if it wasn't long COVID, having a serious respiratory infection does contribute to long-term health issues. So I think of it as easy, it costs me nothing, it's an investment in my health. And lastly, I did not want to get sick and infect you, because you need to be doing the great work that you do. So.
Oh, shucks. Thanks, Dom. You can come back anytime. Why were you wearing a mask?
Very similar reasons. Masks protect you, but they actually have a bigger protection for other people. And I think it's important that when we have a public health emergency, like COVID, I mean, we're still talking about 50 people dying in a month, 600 a year. These are preventable. And if there's a small, easy thing I can do, which is put on a mask to help prevent the spread of the virus, that is something that I will do day in, day out. I don't like wearing masks, right? But it's a simple thing to do in public. I came in, you're wearing a mask, I put on a mask. I get on the subway, I put on a mask. I think it protects me, but it's also my duty to others.
This is not about mask shaming here, just so you know, but you were not wearing it. Okay.
No, I wear masks in certain situations, but certainly not all situations. We know what masks do. We also know what they don't do. And of course, they can reduce an individual's risk of getting an infection, and that's important for a variety of reasons. We also know that it can protect other people if someone is infected and they're pre-symptomatic or even symptomatic and able to transmit this infection. I work in an acute care hospital. I put on a mask frequently in hospital settings, not just to protect myself, but of course to protect those around me. But I don't wear a mask all day, every day, in every interaction. I know what the data is. I know what the strengths and weaknesses of the data are for risk of infection, risk of chronic complications of infections, risk of transmission. And I think at the end of the day, I think what our duty is really to enable people to make smart decisions for themselves. And some people will choose to wear a mask. Some people will choose not to wear a mask. Some people will choose to wear a mask in various situations. But I think if we enable people to make good decisions for themselves based on their own risks, and as you pointed out, the risks might not just be to that individual, but to their household and family members, I think we're doing something right.
Let me pick up on that, because you had the mask on when you came in. You are obviously not wearing it right now. I say that for people listening on podcast who can't see. Are you taking an inordinate risk by taking the mask off right now? We are sitting 2 feet away from each other. What do you think?
Well, I think, we're in a big area room. There's not very many of us in this room, so I'm not really worried. On the subway, I will be masked because that's a really different situation. So I think it is about risk. I mean, we all have to make decisions about how much socializing we're comfortable with mask on, mask off. If you think of having a risk sort of budget for the day and the people you want to protect, I want to keep myself as protected as possible so I don't infect the people I care about, so I can spend more time with them unmasked, especially the vulnerable people in my life. So it's a risk assessment. Some people wouldn't be comfortable with this level of interaction, and I would encourage them to keep their mask on. I'm comfortable with this level.
Got it.
So that's my decision.
I mean, very similarly, I thought about it and thought, should I have a mask on in this conversation about COVID to make the point about the need for masking? But as you say, you have to balance the risk, but also can anybody understand this? But it's interesting when you do things like the Emmys, the Oscars, those big occasions, they all have COVID protocols. And when they shut down their COVID protocols for the Olympics in summer, they started having problems. So it's interesting. people are doing risk assessments and coming up with risks. If you can't be shut down for 6 weeks because that will shut down a $500 million film.
Okay.
That's pretty serious.
People decide they're going to take a different risk assessment. Yeah.
Can I add one thing to this? Obviously, no shame whatsoever for whatever people choose to do, and appreciating that everyone has different risk thresholds, risk perceptions, risk calculus. That's important, and appreciating that different people are going to do different things. Fine. Part of that calculus is we have some tools to help reduce the risk of infection. They're not perfect, but they're good, right? Masks, improving the quality of air in indoor environments is helpful. Is it perfect? Of course not. We know vaccines are helpful, but of course they're not perfect. But also factored into these equations this is never going away. Okay, this is for forever, and I think that needs to be acknowledged, right? And of course, we should take tools to help reduce the risk of infection. But this isn't something that's going to be over in the next year or the next 2 years.
You will get
Do you think we, and when I say we, I mean not just the public, but governments, everybody responsible here, not you, but others, have become somewhat complacent about COVID now because we are not, we haven't shut down schools, we're not shutting down cinemas, malls, and all that. We're kind of sort of back to normal otherwise.
I think complacency is a huge problem. I think one of the things that I wish we'd done differently during the pandemic is we reported so much about deaths and hospitalizations. I work a lot with older adults, and for older adults, sometimes dying is not the scariest thing. It's losing independence and the ability to live a good life. When I see those hospitalization stats, every number there to me is a family who's going to struggle to help their loved one get back to the level they were. When you're middle-aged and older and you're in the hospital with a serious infection, COVID or any other infection, the chance of going back to the life you once had is small, and we don't have the resources to do that. It's estimated that only 2% of Ontarians get rehabilitation care, which is evidence-based practice for recovering from a serious hospitalization. Our family practices are completely overwhelmed because one of the things that happens post-hospitalization is what's called increased medical complexity. You might have a heart attack next. You might need some help getting mobile again. So the complacency here upsets me because it's straining so many of the other systems, and we're not putting
you are a mother of an 8-year-old,
the
so
stress in our
obviously
family practices, the stress in our hospitalization, our healthcare worker burnout, to the fact that we have a lot of hospitalizations.
Probably more things upset you than
Who do you blame for the complacency?
I think I will put some blame on government policies. You know, it's hard for people to know how serious it is. And we discussed earlier how hard it is to get a vaccine. As I always say as an immunologist, actually any COVID vaccine provides some protection. So when somebody's starting chemotherapy, maybe they're going to the hospital for a major surgery, there are lots of good reasons why you should get vaccinated right now if you have something like that coming up and you can't. And as well, we don't have access to testing. COVID's an unusual infection because we actually have a treatment that helps keep people out of hospital, which is Paxlovid, but it only works in the first day or two that you have COVID. So without the testing, without the public knowledge about that, without any of us being able to say how much COVID is there around, it's difficult for people to make that risk calculation.
Feels, Isaac, like the provincial government, and I'm going to be careful how I say this, but they're reading the room. And they're pretty good at public opinion. And public opinion is, we're done with this. So do you blame them for not leading the way?
I want to politely push back on a few items.
Sure.
Think about the levers we have to pull. Okay. Said another way, what are you going to do different? We're well past the era of mandates for vaccines and for masks. Like that should not even enter the equation. Okay. We know this virus is never going away. We know that we can improve the indoor air quality, and there's a big push to do that, and that's a good thing. We know that many people can choose to wear masks, but again, like I said, we're well past the era of mandates. We know that vaccines do not block infection and transmission nearly to what they did earlier on in the pandemic. They still have some capacity to do that to a lesser extent and for a shorter duration, but the heavy lifting of the vaccine is to significantly reduce the risk of severe manifestations like hospitalization and death. We know that the therapeutics, Paxlovid, based on the most recent data, probably, keyword probably, helps those only at greatest risk for severe infection and doesn't really have much utility in a vaccinated or infected and recovered population that's younger with fewer risk factors. So like this virus is here and this virus is going to continue to circulate. And we of course can take steps to protect ourselves and protect those around us. I think we have to be realistic about what tools we have and the utility of those tools, which is comme ci, comme ça. And, you know, to one other point that's semi-related, thinking that an infectious disease specialist, an immunologist, an ethics expert are going to navigate this, yeah, we're helpful, but like we really need behavioral scientists. And the integration of behavioral scientists into communication, epidemic management, pandemic management is extremely important. Because to your point, you know, how do you read the room? How do you reflect doing the best you can to protect individual and population health with what is the will of the people you're working with? Because that's going to be different in different populations.
Well, let me ask you about what was
behavior science, because I'm a psychiatrist. Yeah.
I was actually going to ask you about long-term care homes, because that was ground zero for many people when COVID was at its worst. Have we learned enough? Are we employing what we have learned to ensure that long-term care homes are safer today?
So I'll come to that in just 1 second, but just want to pick up on something that Isaac said. One of the things we know about COVID at the moment is it's not the same as most infections. It increases the risk of a number of physical illnesses, and there's a risk of long COVID. And the more often you get COVID, the more likely you are to get long COVID. So if this virus isn't going away, then part of the calculation we have to do on risk, and also the calculation we have to do on public policy, is around what happens over a period of time where more and more people have been infected more times, and therefore we have an escalating number of people with long COVID. If we do the math that way, you start thinking that some of the public health measures that are in our arsenal are things that we should be employing more now.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
I specifically chose Sundance because it was all online, so I was able to work full time while doing it, and that helped a lot. When you find something you really enjoy learning about, I find you do really well, and I never thought I could actually do this, but once I completed it, I was like, oh, wow, okay. I'm a star.
Sundance College, education that works.
If you're seeing this video, it's your sign that you have a message inside you that is meant to reach a whole bunch of people. And my guess is if you're seeing this video, you have a message deep.
We are back, and we are joined again by Greg.
Hi.
We are back, and we are joined again by Greg Stoker, former United States Army Ranger and geopolitical analyst, host of the Anti-Imperialist Colonial Outcast podcast. Greg, thanks so much for coming back on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
So, your background, I think people may be familiar, but for those who aren't, you enlisted right after high school. You served in the U.S. Army, as I mentioned. So if you were to guess, or based on conversations you've had with people, what is the appetite within the U.S. Armed Services to go to war to back up Israel as they're committing genocide?
Well, unfortunately, a lot of people within the United States military don't see it as a genocide. The word terrorist has been weaponized for generations to basically be used as a mechanism of the great powers to condemn forms of violence that they don't approve of. So a lot of people are still drinking the Kool-Aid. However, the big question is the massive U.S. military-wide recruiting crisis that is ongoing. That's a real threat to United States capabilities going forward, especially fighting a near peer like China in the future. You know, we have a whole situation going on with Taiwan. And there's also a massive retention crisis because there are people having moral qualms about what's happening in the Middle East, concerns about getting into another nebulous forever war in that region. So there's a retention crisis as well. And that's where experienced veterans with dozens of 5, 10, maybe 15 years of experience will not re-enlist to do another 5 years. They'll just get out. So there's a lot of national security ramifications and consequences for U.S. foreign policy right now, backing Israel unconditionally.
Right. I mean, we know that there are some troops in the region, as we have mentioned. Biden has now come out publicly and basically told Israel not to attack Iran's nuclear sites, which, the idea that he even had to say that publicly is immensely concerning to me. I mean, I guess let's go and do a little bit of a recap of what we've seen over the past week and a half with Israel bombing the hell out of Lebanon, killing hundreds of people after they did 2 mass terrorist attacks, I would argue, with the pager explosion and the walkie-talkie explosion, sowing terror throughout Lebanon. It's basically a way to make people feel a lot of fear. Then they carpet bombed large areas outside of Beirut, and they killed hundreds of people. Last night, they also bombed a residential building apartment building in Beirut that had associations with Hezbollah, but it was right next to a hospital, and there's a lot of just other massive ramifications from that. Over 1 million people in Lebanon have already been displaced. That's, I guess, the broad understanding of what Israel's done in Lebanon. But in terms of on the ground in southern Lebanon and what Hezbollah is dealing with, can you just break down these events since then?
Well, I mean, I can definitely talk about the tactical situation going forward, and I think that's the best way to describe the insanity of this operation. So, actually, just before now, news later tonight, I interviewed a former Marine drill instructor who worked with the IDF, and we were just talking about their complete lack of discipline, lack of situational awareness, lack of confidence. They only take pride in their ability to get F-35 JDAMs and press the button. And if you look at white papers from U.S. Army war colleges from 2006, they're doing exactly what they did in 2006 now that led to their defeat. An over-reliance on bombing campaigns, a lack of ground maneuverability, an unwillingness to get out of their vehicles and actually clear through terrain features. They just as we saw in Gaza, they stay buttoned up in their APCs and their tanks, not actually get out, which makes the tanks very vulnerable. So that's a different aspect. And then a massive information operations, or what we would in the civilian terms call a propaganda campaign, to portray an image of defeat for Hezbollah and an image of total victory for Israel. And so one of the main problems with their whole, the pager attack with this massive intelligence coup, it was more of a James Bond villain operation that James Bond in the movie would be trying to stop, because if anybody but Israel did that, it would be considered a terrorist attack, especially Hezbollah did the same thing, but
Exactly.
with IDF soldiers. So that's one form of hypocrisy. But they said their entire command structure has been taken out. Well, first of all, Hezbollah was born out of a guerrilla insurgent force movement.
Really?
Two occupations. They are designed to function in cells, in networks that are independent of an overarching command structure. So they have different
That's
SOPs,
why they
standard
don't do
operating
fucked
procedures
up
for what
weird
happens
shit like
in certain
that.
areas when an invasion starts. Now,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going outside. Isn't that crazy? Did you hear that though? The Israeli military, they recruited fucking people like incels and shit. Well, no, like the incel, involuntarily celibate. That kid who did a school shooting, that's why he did it. And there's a bunch of people. The guy who drove down the sidewalk in the van downtown Toronto, that guy is also an incel. So like, there's a bunch of cases where these people who are quote unquote incels, which is involuntarily celibate, it just means they're fucking douchebags that talk to women like they're garbage, and they're like, I don't understand why women don't like me. That is actually fucking crazy.
the terrain in southern Lebanon is mountainous. It's full of covering concealment through like rocks, trees, and Hezbollah, even though they're degraded to some extent, I mean, they're still effective, but they're not the only guerrilla force, armed group in southern Lebanon. It's like when people use the blanket term of Hamas in Gaza, there's also PID, PIJ, the PFLP. It's not just Hezbollah that's going to be fighting against insurgents. So basically what they have to do is they have to invade, conduct complex ground maneuvers that integrate combined arms, so tanks working with infantry working with artillery working with air assets. We've never seen them do this because they can't need it. So on the first stage of the invasion, they set in commando teams or special operations teams to reconnaissance raids against weapons attaches, safe houses, like intelligence. And then they sent in kind of like a spearhead of infantry and armor. A couple of their excursions were pushed back. There's a lot of fog of war going on. What we have to understand about the Hezbollah position,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you turn down the remote for the light? No, I brought it up yesterday. Nothing cool. Cigarette.
HBID house born IEDs. So that's basically the house of the drug.
No. No. My favorite shit. Wow. You guys all must live in the GTA. Can you fucking stay pretentious? Hey. I don't think he's very like super concerned about his attire. Someone made fucking specially handmade suits for me and me fucking down for that shit. Mm-hmm. We do all the time. Oh, fuck. Okay. Oh, why? No, it's fine. Right? What? Do you want mustard or Dijon mustard? You ready to go? Ready to go, and we'll eat when we get back? So apparently Israel is known to be a safe haven for pedophiles and rapists.
Nice.
And it is apparently
I'm gonna be bound all your time.
yeah, but apparently it's like the pedophile capital of the world, the rape capital of the world. I was like, what? He said it, not me. I didn't say shit. What?
You said it, Jim?
No, I just saw some random fucking thing that came up on my feed. Never seen this guy before. Yeah, but they do like super fucked up shit, like something about like fucking women's underwear and shit, like, and it's normal for men, the military guys, to put it on themselves.
Oh, that's fucked up.
And take pictures and send it to their own family members.
Oh, that's fucked up.
I was like, what? Like,
Are you ready?
I set the barbecue on fire.
Good.
Like, super proud. Tomato.
Potato.
Yay! Rotato.
Potato. Potato.
No potato?
No potato.
Did you just say boo white truffle?
I said, white truffle.
Why white truffle?
Is there a week?
Oh, okay. Thought you were just saying it because, like,
Yeah, I'm crazy.
well, sometimes you're a little bit crazy sometimes. Yeah, but so am I apparently, so. Oh, me and that Tammy chick. Where we were, like, talking about, like, beating people's heads in with a baseball bat. Ha 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 ha. You guys were like, what are you guys talking about? We're like, nothing. No.
That's stuff we did.
I put nails in it first.
Regardless.
Oh. Hmm. Key?
What?
¿Qué? Quizás.
Yeah.
Mr. Sleepy Pants.
I'll eat first.
What? Want to go first?
All right.
You want to do cold bites first? When you're done. Find some good. I'll do the rest when I come back.
Huh?
And I will do the rest when I come back. Oh, beef jelly. No follow-up. Who did you say that? What lounge? Yeah. No, it's from the Truman Show. Okay. For the life of me, it would have fucking made me like absolutely crazy. Not figuring that out. Yeah, I'm coming. Thanks. I'm glad you liked it. It had garlic in it.
Oh yeah?
Mm-hmm. Brr. I'm coming. I know. We're always waiting on me.
Yeah, so. You there?